Hustle from irsportsdaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Jamie University. We are here. It is Tuesday, the last day of January 2023, Jamie. That went by pretty quick. Pretty quick. January did. And so we move on. The offseason moves forward. Notre Dame's posted a couple winter workouts and that sort of thing, and people are working hard and getting big and getting fast and getting lean and all those other things in prep for spring ball 2023, Jamie. And I was sitting around yesterday and I was like, you know what? We need to add some spice. We need to add some spice to our lives. We need to add some takes and that sort of thing. So this is what we're going to do. It's Hot Take Tuesday on the Hit and Hustle podcast, or in the Hit and Hustle show. Soon to be podcast. It's percolating. That's going to be coming soon. So that's kind of breaking news. But so we're going to be doing that today. We've got me and Jamie have some hot takes. We're going to talk about those things pertaining to Notre Dame football team and like Notre Dame kind of adjacent things like TV deals and, scheduling and that sort of thing. We're going to talk about that. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, S. Gomez. What do these initials mean, Jamie? I don't know. ITFHH. I'm hopefully the HH.
I don't know.
It means maybe S. Gomez can help us out. CFB Hertz had a rough start to his day. The Duke Blue Devil mascot ate his Lucky Charms. I don't know what that is, but hope we can make this day better for you, CFB Hertz. This is your first time watching the show. Hit the like. It's time for Hit and Hustle. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Time for Hit and Hustle. All right, sounds good. If the first time watching,
hashtag that.
Hashtag it. If you like it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, obliterate the notification bell so you know when we're going live every single time. All right, and if you're watching on replay, do the same thing. Thank you very much for tuning in. All right, Jamie, do you want to start us off with the first one? You tell me.
I'll start.
Whichever one you want to go with. You tell me, and I'll put it up, and we'll break it down.
Why don't we start? We'll do. Actually, why don't you start and you talk linebackers, and that'll lead into my one.
Okay. All right. Everyone,
chill on the linebackers.
People got to chill on the linebackers now. All right. Now look. Okay. This is. So there was something that came up over the weekend, and it was talk about the linebackers, specifically Bertrand and Kaiser, were called, I think, horrific. It was something. Tim Priester from Irish Illustrated, he replied to someone calling them horrific, and then there was a big back and forth that he had, and I go check out his Twitter feed if you want to go really in depth on it. But people, and it's something that's been going on.
Was it Mike Frank who wrote that? Because he went on a rant on Power. Yeah.
Oh man! All right, so it's been like kind of like all year, and as the off seasons come on, it's like, hey, like Bertrand and Kaiser, like they stink. They're bad at football, and I'm just not feeling that, Jamie. I'm not. And it's a bad take. And I got to tell you, I think Jack Kaiser might be one of the more underappreciated, like under the radar players from last year. Like 2021, I feel like it was DJ Brown. And this year, I think it's Jack Kaiser. And because his production for the snaps that he got was really good. Okay, so he was 15th on the team in total snaps on defense, right? 15th. There's like 353. Okay. And that's low, right? Especially for a guy who it's like he's going to be like a frontline kind of starter.
Like
right?
He played over 500 the year before. Or
yeah. Like he played. So 338 snaps, second on the team in tackles. Okay. Now, if you gave him for his tackle rate per snap, if you gave him the amount of snaps that Marist Liufau got, which was 646, we're talking like 110 tackle season.
I'm not big on the.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, he was productive in the time, but I'm not big on like projecting because.
But what I'm saying is that in the time that he was out there, 1 out of every 6 snaps he's making a tackle. Okay, that's production, right? Like that is, it's just like we talk about. I think you got muted. Are you muted? Oh, no, you're good. Okay. So it's like we talk about Xavier Watts, right? When he came in and it was like, hey, guys always around the ball, always making plays, right? So Jack Kaiser, he's out there, 338 snaps. Okay. And the guy says like, he didn't do it against Ohio State. Didn't do it against USC, right? And that's the only thing I care about, right? The rest of it stinks. And it's like, okay, if you want to go down that path, then we need to talk about a bunch of players that you think stink and need to get out of the program, right? So like Audric Estime, what did he do in those games? Logan Diggs, what did he do in those games, right? We don't do that because that's unfair, right? Like that's not how it works. You shouldn't do that. And Kaiser got less snaps this year because Tariq Bracy was having a really good year, and he came off the field a lot in nickel and that sort of thing. Didn't get a lot of nickel snaps. Jack Kaiser, 2 missed tackles all season, right? So you're talking about second on the team in tackles. 2 missed tackles all year, like 3% missed tackle rate, which is the same as Isaiah Foskey. Right, it was like 3.1 to 3.6 or something like that, right? So he's not missing tackles. Now, J.D. Bertrand on the same level, right? He led the team in tackles again by like 30 tackles. He had less snaps than the year before, dropped his missed tackles by almost half. So last year he missed 19. In 2022, he missed 10, right? So a lot less missed tackles, a lot more controlled, still made plays while also like had to come out a bunch because of the targeting stuff, right? So he missed a lot of snaps. And look,
he missed basically 2 games. Yeah.
Right. No one's saying
missed the Navy game too, where he probably would have had like 15 tackles that day.
Yeah. Right. No one's saying, the Navy game because he was he sick?
He had a thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did have a thing.
But he had a thing. He had a thing.
He had a lower body injury.
He had a lower body injury. Yeah.
So he he missed that game. Still led the team in tackles by almost 30. Okay. And look, are we saying that he was spectacular? I'm not saying he was spectacular, but I'm not going to come in here and say that he's horrific. I'm not going to let someone just slander the guy like that. Like that's not what it was. And so then that leads to a lot of talk about upside and, what they can be and ceilings and that sort of thing, right? Fine. Here and here's the thing, Rajon. This maybe the question isn't if they are good, but if they need to be better, right? First of all, I think a second year in Al Golden's system, and something Matt brings up a lot is, these guys, they've had 3 different systems in the last 3 years, right?
Yeah.
You had Clark Lee in 20, Marcus Freeman in 21, Al Golden in 22, right? Very different, right? And we thought, they're keeping the terms and all these other things. It was a very different defense, right?
It was different.
And that makes a big difference for someone like Bertrand, especially because he's in the middle doing all those other things. And we talk about, whether, but do they need to be better? You know who we don't talk about? Like, why is it that we only talk about the linebackers in these terms, right? We don't talk, like, for example, what is the upside and ceiling for Estime and Diggs? What is their ceiling? We don't say that, right? Because they get the ball and they're productive, right? And if they get blocking, they're good players. And they could do things, right? And if they don't get blocking, well, then they're not as effective, right? Like we didn't see those guys go 91 yards with a play blown up in the backfield like Kyron Williams against North Carolina, right? Like that's not their game, right? And that's fine. I'm not killing those guys. I love those guys, right? They're good players, right? But I think that we don't look at them in the terms of like, can Notre Dame go to the playoffs and win a playoff game with Audric Estime and Logan Diggs? Like we don't ask those questions because we assume we're going to surround them with all these other things and they can complement all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
We look at those guys and say the problem with them is what's around them. But when it's like Bertrand and Kaiser, it's like they are the problem. They are the reason that the defense is, poor in the red zone or, giving up plays and that sort of thing. Like, so I just think that's a little bit unfair, right? I think that they would benefit from better safety play. They would benefit from better defensive line play, right? And so that's how I look at it, Jamie. What is your take on that sort of thing?
I think I don't think it's a hot take to say I think JD Bertrand had a good year. Like I thought
He's a
he had
good
a good
player.
year.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's a good Mike linebacker. I think he's a good inside run stuffer. Do I think he is the greatest in coverage? No. I don't think he's the greatest in coverage, but I think he's an effective blitzer. He is a guy that now that he had two healthy wrists, he had a wrist injury that he played through the previous year. Guy tackled a lot better. Is he the best guy in space? No, he's not, right? But I mean, I could point to a million Mike linebackers who are the same. I think JD Bertrand, I mean, of course you want to have, I think if you look at, say, like the last, I don't know, since you can, okay, let's talk about post Manti Te'o inside linebackers for Notre Dame, right? Like Mike linebackers, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the best one by far is Tavon Coney, right? But I'll tell you what, I would take JD Bertrand and the player he was last year and the player that I think he's going to be this year over Niles Morgan, over Drew White. And I like Drew White. I thought he was a fine player, but Bertrand is a better inside linebacker than him, more productive than him. Yeah. And I think that, when you're looking at kind of, I take him over Bo Bauer. I take him over, basically any of the guys who've played Mike linebackers since then, right? Like it's just Tavon Coney and then Bertrand next, right? And I think that he probably tends to happen is a guy he had a lot of rough spots in 2021. Yeah. It's more than fair to say. Some of it, I think, was on him. Some of it was, like I said, the injury. Some of it was like they're playing him as like an overhang player and he's got to carry the tight end vertically. And I'm like, you're setting this guy up to lose. Like that's coaching, right? That's not on him. So I think in his role, I think JD Bertrand is a good player. And like, I think he's fine. And I think Jack Kaiser started off the season, he looked to me a little bit lost inside as he was making the transition because, like you said, he got bumped out from basically Notre Dame's playing a different defense. They're playing like a pure nickel defense pretty much the whole year. So, he's technically the starting rover. I mean, I don't even know how many snaps he actually played rover during the year. He played as an inside linebacker most of the time, as was most of the time a Mike linebacker. And he was pretty good. Yeah. He was pretty good. Like, I mean, other than I think there's some instances in the beginning of the year where I thought, oh, whatever, like he didn't look that great, but I thought he was much better as the season went on. Also, a guy, like you said, didn't make mistakes. Yeah. Didn't make mistakes. Efficient player. Is that like, is that where you want the ceiling to be at linebacker? No, of course not. You want it to be better. And I think obviously people were critical of Marist Liufau and kind of his production. And I think that's more than fair, right? That's more than fair. For sure. That's fine. And people should want more from the linebacker position in general. But the reality is that the linebacker, if you just look at all of those, if you just say those were basically the three main guys and then Coley, right? Prince Coley. Like if you look at those guys and you say like this, where they're at, and you'd say linebacker play was fine. Fine's not good enough, but it was fine. And anyone who says horrendous, you're just that's reactionary fan talk.
Yeah, like it's just, they're not like great playmakers and therefore like they suck. It's not it. Like that's not how it was. Like like to me, you have to, if you just look at it objectively, it's not even like breaking down film or anything. Like, this isn't me being like, look, this is how he scraped to the thing. That's not it. I could, but you don't need to do that. Just look at how it went. Like, they weren't so awful that it was like 2014, like November, or 2016. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like that. It's so, you know,
and I think
it's just a little too much.
And the other part, and the other part of it that people don't think about ever is the coverage part.
Right.
And you know, where those guys are in terms of like assignments and coverage and doing what they did, and they played well,
right,
in coverage,
right.
Especially Marist. I thought Marist was very good in coverage. So I think like, you want to see more Havoc plays from them. You want to see more athleticism. Of course, you want to see a guy like Prince Cully like take a step and be more prominent. Of course, you want to see that. Of course, you want to see like a guy like Jalen Sneed and his like exciting athleticism like emerge. And I think hopefully you get that, because I mean that's happened at Notre Dame for years and years, where there's been guys have jumped the line because they've just been better. And that's something that I could see happening. I mean, look at the situation with just Kristofic on the offensive line, where, you know, you're like, well, pencil him in at guard. Well, it's like, well, now they're going to move Patterson out there. So I'm sorry, but there isn't a spot for you. And it wasn't like, I bet Kristofic, I mean, he didn't really play enough to say it, but I bet he was better than he was the year before. Yeah. It's just that they just happened to have Jared Patterson was going to play left guard.
Yeah.
And that's what they went with. So I don't know. I think like I'm pretty optimistic about the linebackers this year. I wouldn't say they got anywhere close to expectations this year. But yeah, it does. This always happens, right? Where it's all of a sudden it's like, it goes from like, they weren't good enough to these guys suck. It's like, nah, there's like nuance to it. It's
right. There's just like, there's playmaking, and then there's you stink. Like, there has to be it can't just be All-American or get out of the lineup. It can't be that. And I think that's where it's kind of been. It's like, so CFB Hurts, like, he makes the point, like, it would be disappointing if at least one or two of Colley and one of the sophomore linebackers forced their way into being starters. And the reason he says that is because everyone knows that there is a level above. There's a playmaking level above, right? And that's not something I disagree with. Like, that's absolutely true. But that could still come from those guys, because they have the chance to improve, just like Kaiser or Colley, and let's say Sneed or Burnham or Tuli Hallenbach or whoever, right? It doesn't really matter. The point is, it's like there's a playmaking level to be met. I would say that's the same thing. And the reason I bring up the running backs is because I feel like that's the same thing there too. Like, they do need more playmaking at running back. They do need more home run hitting. They do need more tackle breaking and making people miss in space, right? They were not an explosive team last year with a lot of good blocking, right? So there's more there. Doesn't mean they can't get there. So it's just my point is that it's okay to point out that there needs to be more playmaking there, while also like acknowledging like they were pretty good last year. They weren't awful. Like, so that people need to chill on those guys. That's my main thing. And we can go to your Marist take right now. The Marist Liufau double-digit Havoc rate.
Well, I mean, not Havoc rate, but just Havoc plays in general.
Havoc plays.
Yeah. So, okay, I think the one thing with Marist Liufau this year is one, he was coming off a pretty significant injury. So I think that's, played a part in what it was. And two, I don't think he was used right. I think he was a guy that he could have been. I think, okay, before the 2021 season, I had a chance to interview Marcus Freeman for a piece on Our Sports Daily. And I got to talk to him for like an hour or whatever. It was a nice conversation, and asked him a whole bunch of questions. And one of the things he kind of emphasized was, let's not ask guys to do things that they're not good at. Let's put them in positions to be like, this is what this guy can do well. How do we make this guy better? And obviously Marcus Freeman was the defensive coordinator last year, so it's not directly on him. But this is kind of where I think you kind of got to insert yourself a little bit here, because I think, there's obviously pieces to playing like will linebacker that Marist Liufau will have to get better at, or else he's not going to play. But at the same time, I could pick like a dozen plays from him this year that were like very impactful plays, that even not necessarily like havoc plays, but impactful plays where I was like, looked at it and I'm like, why don't they ask him to do more of this? Like lining up against Stover, Cade Stover, the tight end for Ohio State, and jamming the crap out of him and covering him one-on-one. Like, Marist is a guy that I think could cover, if you wanted to do that, you could say, I'm not going to say he's going to race every tight end. But he could go up against a lot of tight ends and win that matchup. And would you rather have him do that, or would you rather have him be the guy who's plugging up in the middle as a blitzer all the time? Or maybe don't call 5 million cross dog blitzes and you saw that it was very effective at the beginning of the year, but then it got less effective as the year went on. Well, because everyone and their mother would like literally works on it all the time. It's like, well, we know they're going to run this.
Yeah.
It was too predictable. It was way too predictable. And it was like, I mean, I could have told you like almost how many second and longs did they run that exact same blitz? You have to mix it up a little bit too, or else you're making it easy for the offensive line and who you're going against, right? You're doing it. So I think like some of the stuff where you're like North Carolina, where he was like kind of playing like that kind of spy extra defensive line role kind of thing, when they were doing that with Drake May, some of that kind of stuff, like there's just ways to utilize him where I think he can be more effective and be more of the playmaker that people expect him to be. So, I mean, I'm going out on a limb, and I think he's going to have a much better year. And I'm not even saying he's going to be this guy who's going to make like, chuck it up, double the tackles as an inside linebacker or anything like that. I just think he's going to make more plays, and I think they're going to use him, move him around to find a better role and the best role for him, whether that is a little bit of like Viper type stuff on third down, whether it's like that coverage, like matching up with tight ends, like I said earlier. It's going to be just more diversity for him in what he does, and I think that will like bring out the best in him. And also too, like, just one of the things I just wanted to add on him, but like, I think, anyone who's played football, and I know you know this, Greg, like, confidence is so big. It's just so big, and it's just like you make one play and it can just open up everything for you. And in a weird way, so like JD Bertrand knocked the ball out against Stanford. Marist Liufau recovered it, right? It was a huge play. Both those guys, huge play. They obviously overturned it, whatever, and didn't call it. Then they, so that's a play that doesn't happen. It's off the board. They go and they play Boston College, scoop and score a touchdown, take it back to the house. It's taken off the board, right? Like, it's not even whatever. And I'm not saying those are the kind of things that just like ignite and whatever, but it does give you the kind of confidence to kind of like you get one, and then the next one is just a little bit easier to get. And I think that's just like something there. That's something to think about kind of early on for a lot of these guys. And I think that was one of the things with Isaiah Foskey struggling at the beginning of the year too. It was like, this guy just needed one. And then all of a sudden it just started coming. And then all of a sudden you're like, look at the end of the year. You're like, wow, he had 11 sacks. And you're like, what? Like, how did that happen? Because he started so slow, but then it just picked up as he went along. And I think, it's easy to get frustrated for a guy like him who's going against DeJuan Jones and Paris Johnson in the first game. And then building up his confidence from there, all of a sudden it just like starts flowing.
Right. And so like to the point about, like the confidence thing, it's not just confidence in the moment, but like, okay, so he has the pick against Syracuse, right? And he goes out and plays well against Clemson, which is a big game. And they all played well against Clemson. And what happens is like, so let's say the Stanford play is allowed to happen. He recovers the fumble, and they go on and win the game, right? Well, after the game, everyone's coming up to him like, hey, man, you covered the fumble. Everyone on campus is talking about it for like a week, like, 2-3 days. Hey, cover the fumble. That's awesome. Like everyone's talking to you about it, right? If it gets called back, that doesn't happen. And instead, everyone's talking about how you lost, like how you, it's like that's the conversation. Like no one's talking about the play that you made. And the same thing with BC, right? Like you recover the fumble, you go in for touchdown, people talk about it. Right. And so it's not so much confidence. It's like, how in golf, they always say the caddy, like, don't bring up anything negative, right? Like never bring up negative. Like, oh, you have a shot. There's water on the right, water on the left. You don't say, be careful of the water on the left. You're like, hey, nice smooth swing, perfect draw, right side of the green, right? Like that's what you say. You don't put negative. So like the point is like the power of like positive words and positive thoughts. Like, so when you don't have that play that happens, it takes away those positive conversations that you're going to have. Like, I know that it sounds very small, but over time, it is a big deal. Like
pop the ball out against, I think it was Jordan Addison. Remember?
And
then it got
and he recovers.
Those are just those are small things, but they add up over the course of a year. And then all of a sudden, like that's like, that is the kind of thing, it could be like a game-changing play, right? But it's just all of those things, like they add up, and when they're all going against you, you're just like, God, I can't catch a friggin' break. Like that's kind of it's a thing. It's a real thing.
And Matthew Patterson's asking a question about Golden being the linebacker coach. I mean, he is the linebacker coach as far as like, I think on the staff, like he's the DC and the linebacker coach. Laurinaitis did a lot of the coaching. That's true. I think.
Yeah, he did like a ton of individual and stuff.
I think someone who needs. I think someone who needs to get more involved in this is Marcus Freeman. I would like him to take on more of the linebackers next year. I just think he can. I mean, obviously, because he has still Al Golden doing it, right? It's not like he's the linebacker coach, but I would like him. Like he's had a season, knows what it, knows the workload of a head coach. Get more involved with these guys, right? Like the reason that he is what he is, and I've talked about this before, the reason he's such a big hot commodity is because he knows how to work with linebackers. So work with linebackers, right? Like we have so many guys.
Well, it's like Nick Saban still works closely with the DBs.
Yeah. Right. Like you have those guys, go work with them. That's my take on that. All right, moving on. Next take, Kaleb Smith, senior, the transfer, is going to eclipse 1,000 yards next year. And I don't think people are as excited. Like this is a big deal. Him coming in, I think a lot about him. I think he can have a big year, especially with Sam Hartman. And Sam Hartman plays a big role in what I think Kaleb Smith can do. I don't think he is that much different from Kevin Austin. That is my take. I've watched him play. The body type, the types of runs that he can, the types of routes that he can run, the types of plays that he's made. If in testing, I bet you he doesn't run a 4.43, right? I bet that's true. But you know what? I don't remember watching football games and watching Kevin Austin like light dudes on fire on go routes and stuff. He would win, but he wins in the same way that Kaleb Smith did. Kaleb Smith has an 85-yard touchdown on his resume where he runs by a corner, Corner's there, shields him off, catches it. Corner falls over because Kaleb Smith is too physical for him, goes 85 yards for a score, right? I've seen him win on slants. I've seen him win on outs. I've seen him win on curls. I've seen him win on posts. I've seen him win on back shoulders, right? Like he can do all of those things. And a lot of the routes that Sam Hartman likes to throw. And I think that him being the oldest of the group, right? I think that carries a lot of weight. I think he's going to get enough snaps to get there, average 18 yards a catch. And not just that, but his quarterback play last year was just yucca mucka.
Yeah,
like
it was bad.
If he had Jack Cohn version of Jack Cohn on the Virginia Tech team last year, he's not even at Notre Dame. He's going to the NFL, right? But he's at Notre Dame now because he wants to, make that one final push, become an NFL player. He has the ACC all-time leader in touchdowns and Sam Hartman. I think if he was at Wake Forest last year, he would have done numbers. So I just think, people, I put this out on Twitter and people got all, he's not the athlete that Kevin Austin is. Kevin Austin wasn't a great athlete on the football field. He was a great tester. And then we saw it when he went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like he just wasn't, he made the practice squad, right? Like he didn't make the regular roster, right? He didn't make the 53 man because there were just little things like his athleticism didn't fully translate to the
I would just say
field.
he's like a better athlete than he is a receiver.
Right. And I think Kaleb Smith is a better receiver than he is athlete. And I think it kind of evens out there. I think he's going to be on for a big year, maybe even similar to Claypool. Maybe not the types of like the number of targets that Claypool got in 2019, but I think he's going to be more of a big play guy. I just think he's a lot. This is a lot bigger deal than I think people made it out to be.
I don't think it's like a crazy like prediction to think that he could get. I don't know if he'll get 1,000, but like I think he's going to. I would be surprised if he wasn't the leading receiver, just because of exactly what you said about like the throws that Hartman is very good at making, and him being this kind of deep threat. He averaged over 18 yards per catch last year. Like he is a very, very good back shoulder guy. See, like this, Kevin Austin was irrelevant. He was not irrelevant. Like he was actually
888 yards.
Yeah, he was actually like pretty good, especially considering that he like didn't play for like 3 years. So, he just should have came back to school. That's was his problem. He should have came back. He wasn't ready to go to the NFL. He probably was ready from like, I'm done with school ready, but he wasn't football ready to go. And I think actually if he would have came back, he could have had a big year. I mean, maybe whatever would have hurt a little bit with Drew Pine, but I still think he could have had, he would have been a much better version of the guy that we had. But I do think Kaleb Smith has, like you said, the quarterback too, the upgrade, like Virginia Tech, not good at quarterback.
No,
not good
very
at
bad.
all. So,
very bad.
Yeah, I think I love that prediction. I think that he is going to have a big year.
Yeah. I mean, he had a better completion percentage on passes thrown to him than the quarterback had overall, right? So he was like 64% on passes thrown to him, and the quarterback itself was like 59% or something like that. So, if he had better quarterback play, he would have been much better. And obviously the number of targets he got because of their quarterback play was just, it wasn't there. All right, Jamie, where do you want to go?
Let's go to the recruiting one. And okay. So I know, this year was one of those years where Notre Dame was close but no cigar on, 3 pretty important guys. And I think that there's a lot of people who are down on Notre Dame being able to not just like get commitments from, but keep some 5-star kids. But I think they're going to land at least 2 this year.
Do you think CJ Carr is a 5-star?
I think.
Do you count him in this?
I think he has got a chance to be. So this is why I didn't just say like CJ Carr will be a 5-star, or because I think him or Cam Williams have a chance to be a 5-star eventual. Because it's not like I mean, I don't care about they're a 5-star now. It's what they finish as, right? That's what matters more, right? It's just like one of those things where it's like, well, Brennan Vernon was a 5-star at one time. Well, he didn't finish as a 5-star for a reason, right? So I think, CJ Carr definitely has a chance to be a 5-star. I think he definitely has a chance to be a 5-star. I think that Cam Williams definitely has a chance to.
So 247 composite 5 stars or Jamie 5 stars?
I'm going to say composite 5 stars just because even though whatever, like I had like Blake Fisher was a 5-star for me and he wasn't whatever, and I would consider him, but I'm going to say composite because I know this is what people tend to care the most about because it's the average, the consensus or whatever, right? Like that's what people want to know. They're like, and there's always going to be people who say like, oh, he's a 5-star on Rivals, but like, man, he's like number 206 on 247 or whatever, right? Or like I put a guy as a 5-star and he's not, whatever. Like they like the composite, right? They like it. So and I think it's a good thing. It's a good invention, right? So no, I don't give out a lot of 5 stars. I don't. So like, and well, for one too, they give out 5 stars too much. Like they don't need to be. They're like the 32 5 stars for 32. Sometimes there's not 32 guys that deserve to be 5 stars. I'm sorry. It's just it just doesn't happen. But so I'm saying a guy who's going to be ranked in the final like 32, like on average thing. I think Notre Dame is going to have at least 2 of those guys. And could that be a Justin Scott that they land that did? Maybe. I mean, I don't see him as that kind of guy right now. Could it be? I think it totally could be somebody else that we even least suspect. I think Notre Dame will. I have a feeling Notre Dame is going to land somebody, and I don't know who, but I have a feeling they're going to land somebody and then be able to keep them, a Keon Keeley-esque type that they'll be able to keep in the class this year. And so I think they're going to land at least 2. And I think, I mean, I have no idea where Notre Dame's final ranking is going to be, but I mean, that'll obviously help. And I think they'll probably have on paper a better class than they had last year.
Why do you think that is? What it's not that they can land commitments from them. It's like they ultimately end in the class. Like, why do you think that will be a change?
Well, one, because I think the staff is a little bit more prepared now than they were before. It's just like one of those things. I think Brian Kelly was like a perfect example of like, I mean, he really learned from getting burned, and got better with some of that stuff. And then I don't think, but his thing was he just became less ambitious. He was like, I'm going to stop recruiting these Aaron Lynch types or whatever, right? And I don't think Marcus Freeman or anyone on the staff is going to stop recruiting those kind of guys. They're just going to be smarter about it and kind of like cut it off before. And it's kind of like what's going on with this Justin Scott right now, right? Where they're like, I think last year they would have been like, commit, do it, man, do it.
Yeah.
Put it on paper. And then we got you, then whatever. And then they're fighting on for dear life the rest of it. And I think that's a mistake. And that was a mistake they made. They should have done with Peyton Bowen. If you think about it, they should have. I mean, they were smart in terms of they pivoted at safety earlier or whatever. And they kind of were like, always had like a plan B already set up. And I think that only happened though, because of what happened with Keeley. And they didn't, they had no plan with Keeley that they were like, they were telling kids that they're like, we're not recruiting any of, or they were telling them, we're not recruiting any other Vipers or whatever. And that was a mistake. That was a mistake. And I don't think they're going to make the same mistake this time. And ultimately too, because the guys that really like care about, I mean, you saw Keon Keeley, he didn't care about that. The guy went to friggin' Alabama. They got like 4 other guys that could easily like beat him out in this class. Right. And not that I think he is probably going to be like a first-round pick one day, but he might not be because some of these other guys might be first-round picks, right? And so he's obviously not afraid of the competition, right? So I think it's going to be a different approach. I also think like whatever. This isn't me like reporting anything or anything. I just think that this is just tend to be what happens with Notre Dame. Whenever like something happens, it's like, what happened with like Keeley and Bowen last year? We're not going to get involved in the NIL game. They'll be a bit more involved in the NIL game, and not Notre Dame, obviously, but whoever in these collectives. That's just going to happen because, I mean, when it comes down to it, there's enough people that care about Notre Dame football that are going to get involved.
Okay, that's fair. That's all fair. I could see it too. I could see, especially with, like you said, the way that they hey, Mark Youngman, thanks for the super chat, man. We'll throw up this question since we're on it a little bit. Just let me finish this point and then I'll throw up your question. So I especially the way that they learned, last year, and Peyton Bowen and Keeley were kind of weird. Like they took all we heard about Keon Keeley was like how he was such a Notre Dame guy, and he has his best friend, the Readers, like he was coming to Notre Dame to play baseball. Like it was a whole thing, right? Like he is a Notre Dame guy through and through. It doesn't matter. Like none of this matters, right? And then that flipped, especially post spring game. It was just like, hey, I want to take visits all the time. And then that was kind of like, all right, that's no good. And Peyton Bowen was kind of the same. Like, when Matt was talking about him, like last December, like not 2022, like 2021, it was like Peyton Bowen, like loves Notre Dame. And then it was like, he's going to commit. It's like, oh, cool. And then like 2 weeks later, he went to Oklahoma, and Matt was like, Peyton Bowen might decommit today. And we were like, what? Like what? Like that didn't make any sense. I bet you it caught Notre Dame off guard too. So that's why for them, it's probably like for this cycle, they probably need to be like a little bit more careful about these things. So I could see it. I could see that all playing out. All right, we're gonna do this for Mark. I don't remember Mark being on the show. So if this is your first time, thank you, Mark. And appreciate you being here. To like it, subscribe. All right. Special teams is one of the most fun parts of last season. How much better do you think special teams can be next season? It seems like it's become cool to be on special teams at Notre Dame. So what I would say is the return games, like the kickoff return game was not good. Right? Chris Tyree, that did not work out. Right. I don't even know that they had one that like was a close call in terms of like bringing one back. So that's one where it's like that can get a lot better. Punt return with Brandon Joseph, good at catching punts, not good at returning punts. He didn't have a close call either. That's where
just not explosive.
Yeah, it wasn't explosive, but like look, if you're going to return
very
kicks,
Chris Fink-ish.
Yeah, you got to give it a chance. Not even Chris Fink. Like Chris Fink had a couple.
Or more Salerno-ish, I guess.
Yeah. Chris Fink had a couple where it was like, and I think Styles, like honestly, this is where, I mean, look, the guys had catching problems, so I kind of get it.
Yeah, you're not going to put him back with the punts with the way he was catching the football.
But you do have to get him involved in this because he's really good with the ball in his hands, right? Like kickoffs, they're not hard to catch. They're really not. I caught kickoffs. They're not hard to catch. So I think that's a couple close calls getting to the 25. Honestly, last year, really, really bad. Really not good. So that's where it can improve. Any incoming freshmen for special teams? I mean, Micah Bell, right? Like
Micah Bell could definitely be a returner. I think he's a guy to watch for it. I mean, Jeremiah Love is a guy
there you go.
has a chance to be something there. I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see like which freshmen actually play. Like to me, a guy like Brandon Hillman, if he like plays, is a guy that I could see be like, oh, this guy made the punt block team. That's a guy that could watch and you're like, he could be just like a demon there, right? I don't know. I think they got a lot of like intriguing athletes, like Adon Schuler is a guy that I think could be like, I could see definitely be a guy big time on kickoff team. Like, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting. We'll kind of see. I also think too, now that, Foskey's gone, there's guys like, I mean, Sneed should have been a guy that was more of a prominent figure on the special teams this year.
Yeah.
But it's like, you got Cully, you got Botello, and those guys coming back. But it's like, well, you got Kaiser. He's going to be on pump luck. But it's like, well, there's got to be more guys to kind of step up. JD Price could be another guy who, if he's healthy, can in the return game too. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Next take. Night games are bad, Jamie. I don't like night games. I don't. I think Notre Dame has, and it's like an NBC thing, right? Like they want the ratings and stuff, and that's fine. First of all, NBC, I think their product stinks. Okay, it just does. The sound, it sounds quiet. The way they do the audio, you can't really hear the crowd. If the crowd is going crazy, it doesn't come through in the broadcast. It just doesn't, right? It's not like it's totally silent, but it doesn't sound like ESPN.
No, it doesn't sound like
it doesn't sound like
a
CBS.
CBS or
it doesn't sound like that. No good. Don't like it. I don't like Notre Dame is trying to like, okay, the whole push for like the night show, right? Like the light show and all that stuff. That was because they went to Georgia in 2019 and that was a banger.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, let's be like Georgia and let's do the light show thing. And it's like, Notre Dame has to have their own thing, whatever it is. They need to have their own thing. It's got to be organic too. It can't be like, oh, we're like they do the thing with the smoke. Why are you doing the smoke? Like, I don't like that. And I feel like the light games are the same. Like, no, when I was growing up, like all the biggest games, right? Like 93 Florida State, day game. 2005 USC, day game. 2000 Nebraska, day game. Like the crowd doesn't need it to be nighttime, right?
No.
And another thing, it's like, oh, you can tailgate all day and you're drinking all day. Notre Dame crowds are not like that. They just aren't. Look, the big games will always be like elevated. They will always be elevated. And then like this year, you get this night game was like Stanford. That's like everyone's talking about how like it was dead.
Yeah, that's a horrible decision.
No good. Like I don't like the night games, and like Tyler says, waiting all day to watch the game is so tough, but the concept is awesome, but they don't capitalize on the concept. They don't. It just doesn't have like I've been to day games at Notre Dame. I've been to night games at Notre Dame. They're just, to me, they're all the same. Like there's no difference except one is, later in the day. Right. And look, and a lot of the good games, like they end up at night anyway, like the 05 SC game, like that's in the dark, right? Because of it was later in October. Right. So to me, get rid of the night games. I don't like them. Have your thing be like, we play at 2:30, 3:30 every single week. That is it. That you come to Notre Dame, you're playing at 2:30 or 3:30, and that's it. That's what I like. Figure out how to get the atmosphere from there and go. Like that's my take. I don't like the night games. That's my take.
Okay, I agree with you here. I'm not a big night game guy for Notre Dame either. One, I think two, if it's about a stadium takeover, it gives their fans a chance to be more drunk and crazy.
Right.
So that's probably not good. I think two, the big games, like you said, like about that, like Florida State 93 or whatever, right? Like Clemson this year, I understand like there's people like, the crowd is crazier at night. It's like, if they were playing Clemson at 3:30 or 2:30 or whatever, right? Like the crowd is nuts for that game. Like it's a different vibe because of the game, not because of night. It just happens they plan to have those big games at night, right? And I don't mind them doing it one day a year. And I think there's some places like LSU where it's like an LSU night game. Like, yeah, that's a cool thing. But like, I just don't think I don't think it's the same. I think I'm not going to go say as far as they're bad, but I'm going to say they're overrated. They're overrated. And I am not like how people were worried about because NBC, and this leads right into the thing. NBC is going to have these night games for the Big Ten now, right? And they're like, oh, NBC is not going to have these night games. I'm like, they play enough night games already on the road. Like, do they need more night games? And they'll probably play like a Big Ten. I mean, they're going to play USC. When that USC game, that's going to be a night game. The Stanford game, probably going to be a night game too, actually, right? So they'll have those. But I'm in saying that, my hot take is the NBC contract's coming up. They're not going to be on NBC. I think Notre Dame is going to, the next TV deal they're going to have is going to be with a streaming service. Because I don't think that there's like an obvious choice with CBS got more of the Big Ten. First of all, everybody just wants the Big Ten and the SEC. That's all they want. That's all they want. That's like what that's how they see it. And Notre Dame is like an attractive piece of it. But as long as Notre Dame continues to be independent, and why would they stay with NBC if you are basically going to be second class? I think it's even you're getting the second tier version, because the best game is going to be like, Fox is still doing that noon kick where they're trying to get the best game there too. You're getting like the second tier night game for the Big Ten. So that means you're getting Iowa in some of those games. Like, enjoy those Iowa, Illinois games. Like, give me a break. You're going to do that over a Notre Dame game? They're going to put more resources over that. Even right away, they like their hires there. They're prioritizing it more. Like, I don't think, they did a good job. Like, having Mike Tirico, that's great. But then immediately what they've transitioned to, that's not prioritizing Notre Dame football. So I think Notre Dame is going to go to a streaming service. I don't think Netflix or HBO Max. I think it's going to be like Apple or Amazon. Well, one, because both of those streaming services have done live sports already, right? And I believe Apple's got the MLB Friday games. They have MLS, and I think they would probably want to dip their toes into football, and that's like a perfect like brand name type of thing for them to do. But in saying that too, Amazon has already produced football games and done some of that too. I could see easily, and I know they would like blow it out. They would blow it out there. They would like Amazon would do like a show or something like that for Notre Dame football and try to like make it into something. I mean, I would say Netflix, but Netflix hasn't shown, even though they have these documentary series that they have for F1 and tennis and whatever. And I heard the tennis one's good too and all that. Right. But like they haven't, as far as I know, they're not going into live sports. And until they do, like, I would say that it's probably whatever. And I think, you know what, like Vamos said, the older folks have HBO. Like, I think that is one thing that they'll probably look at, but it's like, people will get it. That's just how it is. Right. It's like, how do you think everyone, the people that still have cable now, whatever, I'm actually shocked when people talk on ISD of how many people are like, I cord cut and I'm like, in my late 60s and I just decided to do this and I use YouTube TV or whatever, right? Yeah. That's just how people are doing it now, right? And with Amazon,
I could see
the
Amazon.
The NFL's already there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people already got that.
People they're already used to, so like I could see Netflix or Amazon because people are already used to going to those apps. You know what I mean? Like they're already used to doing that. Like I'm used to it, right? Netflix, Amazon, like it's just so like Apple, like a lot of people don't have Apple, right? A lot of people don't have,
but everybody has an iPhone.
Everyone has an iPhone. That's true. Everyone.
So that's like the kind of thing where it's just like they're already kind of in it. So that's why that I could kind of see that. But I do think probably Amazon would be more. I just think I think they'll probably pay more money too. And okay, Notre Dame was always taking less to like have their own, like, no, make that money. Get some of that Bezos money, whatever, right? Like and as much as like, I think, I don't think the thing with like being on your own network thing, I don't think that matters.
It's gone anymore. Now. It doesn't. I was thinking about this the other day. It's gone. It doesn't have it. It totally doesn't. And not just that, but the network stinks.
Yeah.
NBC stinks. Like, it's not like they don't, and they stink because it's a choice. It's not that they
like what they did with
have to.
halftime this year, and
It's
like
terrible.
bringing the former player from Notre Dame and then a former player from the, like, what is this Mickey Mouse stuff? That was like high school type like coverage. That was bad.
The fact that they went with Collinsworth and Garrett, like, that is so awful. Like, it's not that they can't be good. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's that this is Notre Dame football. Like, this is we are the flagship of Notre Dame football. And you get like Collinsworth, what was doing what, the XFL or whatever, the whatever he was doing. Like, come on now. Like, we just had Tirico. Like Mike Tirico was the guy. And he's doing like all your NFL games now. Like, he's the host of your Olympic coverage. And you give us someone who's never called college games ever, who's never called NFL games ever. Like, come on. Like, that's no good.
No.
So, go ahead.
And okay, so here's the other thing. So let's just say 2025, right? That was when they could happen.
Yeah.
You don't think Texas A&M fans, first of all, a lot of them probably would already have Amazon, but like, have Amazon Prime, but like Texas A&M, that's a home game. That's like a game, like they'll pay the $9.99 just to sign up and watch that game.
Right.
And that also could be a game that like means something where regular folks might pay the $9.99 to do that. Right. Like, who are just, USC's a home game that year. Like, and that's like, they have a lot of these kind of games coming up that are going to be, like that Wisconsin game, the Lambeau game that got postponed, that's going to be an NBC game, right? Mm-hmm. So that's like another game that's going to be there, right? Like, they're going to play Bama in like a few years too, right? Like, all these games, these are games that are going to matter at home for Notre Dame. Like, I just think that the days of not even just for like, there's one things to be like, so like my dad is like a Luddite. He has no idea how to work his phone, whatever, but he has a smartphone, whatever, but he doesn't like look stuff up on it. He's not like using apps, playing games on his phone. He's not doing anything, but you know what? He knows how to FaceTime. He knows how to FaceTime. He knows how to whatever. And you know what? He knows how to use the Amazon thing to watch NFL football.
Yeah.
He knows. He goes and him and my mom go to whatever the one has Yellowstone. Like, they go to their Apple TV to watch the certain things. They watch their certain shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
Everybody has it. Like, that's just one of those things. Like, people, it's one of these things now where it's not a barrier anymore like it was even like 5 years ago. So, I don't know. I just think it's going to happen. I'll probably be wrong. They probably announce this NBC later today and shove it in my face. But like, let's just. I'm rooting for it.
No. It'll be NBC, but exclusive Peacock. That's what.
Oh my God, that would actually get people just rattled because no one has Peacock.
You know what, man? Honestly, like, if they announced, like, I don't know, Amazon or even NBC, but it was like revenue sharing with the players, that would get people going. Like, the school would never do it. But I'm just saying, like, that's what it would do. All right, there it is. That's our hot take show. That was fun, Jamie. I'm telling you, we got to do something like this every week. Hot Take Tuesday. It's gonna have to be the thing. We're gonna have more hot takes. I have a couple that I left on the floor for next week. We can do more of that stuff. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. We're gonna be back on Thursday. I want to talk some 2024 recruiting, Jamie. So maybe we'll get that in there. A bunch of new offers went out. We did a deep dive on the 2024 wide receivers over the weekend, and there's a bunch of guys that we really like. So maybe we can talk about that. So you're gonna want to tune in for that. Thank you, everyone. Hit the like, hit subscribe button, hit the notification bell, obliterate the notification bell, annihilate the subscribe button, all those other things. And we will talk to you again on Thursday. Have a good Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll talk to you soon.